I want to teach you the biggest lesson that I learned in my business, especially for those of you that have been trying to keep your business super broad. I want to talk to you. You're that home remodeler that wants to be able to do everything, or you're just the construction business, but really you tend to see that you're only doing a couple of things. Or perhaps you're not even actually doing that much work because you're just a jack of all trades. And this was the problem that I was having as well early in this year until we started to really niche down. And so I want to talk to you about why we niche down and share some of the results that we've had so far from that niching down. You're probably watching this as a result of us actually niching down. Like I mentioned, home remodelers already. When we first started this year, we were talking about virtual assistants. We were only talking about virtual assistants, social media management, admin, and all sorts of different things about what a virtual assistant could do, rather than focusing in on one particular audience and one particular type of thing that we were gonna do, or in this case, maybe two, depends on how you look at it. But throughout this year, we kept trying to refine and figure out what was that gonna be. And finally, we landed on helping home remodelers with virtual assistants inside JobTread. We wanted to help home remodelers, which was our target audience. And I could go into more details about who they are, this, that, and the other. There's the avatar of that all, but I'm just gonna stick with home remodelers rather than just any business owner. Yeah, that's where we were at. It's just any business owner that needs time back, that has too much going on their plate. That's every single business owner. So we were drowning by a lack of clarity on our messaging. But then we also were just helping out with any type of virtual assistant. Again, nobody knows what virtual assistants are. We were getting call after call after call about what is a virtual assistant. You know, can you tell me more about what a virtual assistant can do? How can they help me in my business? And so this was a big problem for us as well. So we were getting traction. People were recognizing us for being a virtual assistant agency, but they still had no clue what a virtual assistant did. And so that's why we specifically got into JobTread. So within JobTread, we help with the implementation and build out of JobTread. We help support ongoing projects, so basically doing project management and admin work for home remodelers. And when we niched down to that, it made it so much easier to see what our content needed to be. It made it so much easier to make decisions in the business of what was the right path and what was the wrong path. And then we started having people actually reaching out to us because they saw that we could help them. They knew, maybe not everything about our business because we're still working on refining that message, but we are clearly talking about a specific software and doing specific actions for a particular audience. And through this, it has allowed us to be able to penetrate the market a lot better. And I think about a fish in a puddle versus a fish in a pond or even the ocean. That's essentially what we have done. We have made ourselves so massive in such a little tiny market that we are recognizable. And this is the same thing in your business. You are spending too much time trying to be everything, a jack of all trades. And so you really need to narrow down on what that is. You've probably heard of a ton of companies that are just bathroom remodelers or kitchen remodelers. Maybe they only do restoration, remediation and restoration. They don't do anything. They can do the decks, they can do the kitchen, the bathroom, anywhere in the house. They are specifically focused in on one little part of the house, whether that be inside or outside the house, to be able to capture potential clients' attention and be recognized as being the expert in that area. Because people are already gonna pay $10, $20, $100,000 for some of these projects that you're working on. They don't wanna just work with Bob the builder. They wanna work with Bob the bathroom remodeler. They wanna work with Joe the jacuzzi guy. They wanna work with somebody that's specific for that thing when they're spending that kind of money. Because that's a lot of money for most people to spend on a project, and it's at their house. They wanna be proud of it at the end. And so they wanna work with a company that they can recognize, that does that work time and time again, that they have their numbers down, that they have proof that there's social media, proof in the past projects that they've done. And so if you want to go into 2026 and have a better 2026, I strongly recommend that you work this first quarter, this first month of the year, as we're coming into the first month, on narrowing down what your project scope is. Because the other cool thing as well, what we found out too, is now we can create basically a select pricing. We know what profit we want to make. We know what our costs are going to be, roughly speaking, because we keep doing the same thing time and time again. And sure, there are some custom things within there, and we could create some custom pricing depending on what it is. But also, we know that you're either going to be at this tier or this tier. We can just create 2 tiers. And so maybe you're just a little bit above this. We go ahead and say, you know what? Maybe we can take a little bit of profit loss on that. Not a profit loss, less profitable on that, because it's not enough to put them into that next bracket, but maybe they are way above that. Now we can go to the next bracket and they're going to have more than enough coverage on that. But because of that, we can get off the sales call while on the sales call, and we can give them a price right away. We can send out a quote immediately, because otherwise we were going back and we were, okay, what's the price going to be on this? And we were kind of making up prices. And as I was trying to get other people on the team to help take discovery calls and pricing came up, well, we'll have to talk with you. You know, we could play the whole game, but we'll have to get with a specialist. We can send you a quote over later. And then 3 days later, we're sending a quote. And it just became messy, and it was not a speed to lead thing. And that's one of the things that we are working on adamantly as well, is how fast can we get to that person, get them on a call, and get them a quote. The faster we can do that, the more likely we're going to win that business. And so by having things fairly standardized, we're able to do that. And I get with our business, it's not as complex. It's basically, what's the work you want, the scope of work, you know, how many people do I need to put behind that to get that work done, and what's the time frame. Like, it's very simple compared to you doing a bathroom remodel, although a lot of that is going to be the same over time. It just depends on the square footage. So, you know, based on the square footage, here's where you're at. You probably can come up with ways to maybe have a couple tiers. Maybe it's not only 2, maybe it has to be 3 or 4. I don't know what that looks like for you and your business exactly, but the more narrowed down you can get, faster you can get, and the more then you can scale your business in 2026. So what I want you to do immediately after this video, besides subscribing to our channel, is taking the time, use ChatGPT, use your own brain, whatever it is, and figure out a plan for you to niche down to a particular avatar, to a particular type of remodel that you want to do, and watch you be able to get more business in 2026.